in order to begin with this special session, Professor Maeno is going to introduce about why he came up with this idea and then why he decided to have this event. So let's welcome Professor Maeno.
Oh, thank you for your introduction. My name is Takashi Maeno. Maeno Takashi desu. Working at Keio University. As you know, I've been doing research on well-being, happiness, what we should do to make a better world. Well-being is very important because people who has high well-being is a kind people, and they are very active, doing challenge kind of people. So well-being is very important to make the world people happier and make the earth better. So I'm really interested in doing research on well-being. And then I love Schumacher College. I used to try to go to Schumacher College because we want to learn from that Schumacher College. It has been for 30 years by Satish Kumar. So yeah, I wanted to go to Schumacher College, but due to the COVID-19, I couldn't go. But Miki-san's here. Miki-san and Shishido-san and people did Zen 2.0. At that time, I could meet Mr. Satish Kumar, and then the meeting was great. I was talking about well-being, and I want to make a small school in Japan. And then Satish told me, start doing small things. That's very important. So I'm so impressed. Okay, Japanese people have to try to do like Satish. That's my impression. So I emailed Satish to come back again for Keio's students and people and talk about your Schumacher College, and also who are you? Yeah, we know who you are, but I want to ask you, do you know Mr. Satish used to be a monk of Jain in India? Do you know Jainakyo in Japanese? From 9 years old to 18 years old, and then he was impressed by Mahatma Gandhi and Schumacher, and then he made a Schumacher College. I want to ask him about the history of him and what he's planning to do from now. That's today's meeting. So I'm so glad Mr. Satish Kumar to come to this meeting. Thank you for coming.
Before Maeno-san, you ask question, I would like to start with a short meditation.
Yeah, thank you.
So first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to be part of this wonderful gathering and part of this conference. And thank you, all of you, Japanese people who have come to this event. So thank you very much. Arigato gozaimashita. Now, if you keep your hands like this, folded together, and I'll read this meditation. I bring my both palms together, and I bow to sacred life, sacred earth, sacred universe. I see all beings in me and myself in all beings. I see whole universe in me and myself in the whole universe. I am microcosm of macrocosm. All living beings are sustained by the same breath of life. Thus, we are all connected. We are all related. We are interbeings. Unity and diversity dance together. When separation and divisions end, suffering ceases. I bow to the unity of life. I bow to the diversity of forms. I bow to the sacred, to life, to the earth, to the universe. I breathe in, I breathe out, I smile, I relax and let go. I let go of all expectations, attachments, and anxieties. I let go of all worries, fears, and anger. I let go of ego. Breathe in, breathe out. Smile, relax, and let go. I am at home. I am at home. We are at home. Thank you. Okay, please, Maeno-san, now you can ask your first question.
Yeah, I want to know about your birth to right now. So where were you born and what kind of child? Yeah, what were you doing in childhood days?
Okay, I was born in India, in a state called Rajasthan. Some of you who have been to India may have been to Rajasthan, Jaipur, Jodhpur, Udaipur, Bikaner. These are the big cities in Rajasthan. And I was 4 years old when my father died. And when my father died, my mother was crying. My brothers and sisters were crying. And my father was not moving. He was lying on state. And I wondered what happened. Why my mother is crying? Why my sisters and brothers are crying? Why my father is not moving? Why my father is not talking to me? Why he is not walking? These were the questions. So I went to my mother and said, Mother, why are you crying? Why everybody's crying? What has gone wrong? And my mother said that your father has died and he will never speak to us again. And then I said, what is death? And my mother said, we are all going to die. And I said, you will die, mother? Yes, I will die. I will die, mother? Yes, everybody will die. And when people die, they cry. They are sad. So I felt very upset. And that was the reason that eventually, at age 9, I became a Jain monk. Because the Jain teachers said to me that in order to bring an end to the cycle of birth and death, you have to renounce the world and become a monk. So I said to my teachers, Jain teachers, that I will do anything to stop people dying and bring an end to the cycle of birth and death. So that was the reason that I became a Jain monk. So only 9 years of my childhood, but my mother, those 9 years with my mother were also very important for me because my mother was a gardener. She was a small farmer. We had about 5 acres of land and we had 2 cows and camels. And so my mother made butter, cheese, yogurt, milk, all those things and grew vegetables and grew sesame seeds and grew beans and millets. And so I grew up in the country, on the land, and learning from nature. My mother used to say to me that nature is our teacher. We should learn from nature. So my mother's influence on me has lasted all my life. And my mother was a naturalist. And so I love living in the countryside, and I love walking in nature, and I love the hills and the mountains and the forests and the birds and the flowers. And so my love of nature has come from my mother. So my mother was my first teacher. My mother was my hero because she taught me so much about nature and about loving nature. And so from 9 years of my childhood, I was blessed to have a great mother. But then I became a monk, and then I left home, and I did not go home. My mother used to come and see me, but I did not go back home. I was always, as a monk, no money, always walking, no bicycle, no train, no car, no boat, no shoes, barefoot, walking every day, and begging with a begging bowl. And like a monk, like a Zen monk, the Jain monk, also begging bowl. So we'll go from village to village for the food. And then only once a day, I eat lunch and no other. So for 9 years, from age 9 to 18, I was Jain monk. That was my childhood.
I know that Jain, they don't hurt living creatures, and they don't have no possessions. They don't have things. So it's very strict religion, I think.
It is a very strict religion because the Jains believe in two great principles. One is no violence, non-violence. So do no harm to yourself, do no harm to other people, and do no harm to nature. And so complete non-violence, doing no harm. That's the first principle. The supreme principle is non-violence, doing no harm. The second principle is taking from nature only what is your essential needs, no more. So only what you need for your food, for your clothes, for your house, you take from nature. Nature is abundant, but your share in nature is only for your minimum need. This is why my book, Elegant Simplicity, is very much based on the philosophy of Jainism, because elegant but simple, less possessions. And so if we take from nature only what we need and not what our greed, there's enough in the world. Earth provides everything, enough for everybody's need, food, clothes, house, basics, but not for greed. So our industrial civilization is a civilization based in greed. And Jain philosophy, also I think Buddhist philosophy, and many traditional Shinto philosophy are rooted in elegant simplicity and living in nature, with nature, in harmony with nature, and not destroying nature, not polluting nature, not wasting nature. That is the fundamental second Jain principle, non-violence and non-possession. These are the two principles I practiced.
I see. As you said, Shinto and Buddhism has similar principle, but Jain is more strict. And yeah, I really agree. Japan is a beautiful country. We have a lot of nature. We love nature, but Japan has industrialization, so we hurt nature. So Jain principle is very important thing for the modern people.
Absolutely, because the Jain principles are very close to ecological principles and principles of regenerative culture, so that there should be no waste, there should be no pollution, and there should be Only you take what you need for your survival. So I think in Japan, America, Europe, all these countries have taken the industrial civilization, where they think that nature is only a resource for the economy. And we can use nature just for human greed and human kind of economic growth. All those things. And so Japan has forgotten Shintoism and Buddhism. And also the European countries have forgotten the teachings of Jesus Christ and teachings of St. Francis. St. Francis was also a great teacher of simplicity, elegant simplicity. And that also in India, we are forgetting. So this industrial civilization is sweeping the world like a tsunami, like a kind of storm, sweeping the world. But we are now witnessing the results of that materialism and consumerism. We have got a big crisis of climate change. We have got a big crisis of biodiversity diminishing. We have got a big crisis of our oceans polluted with plastic. So in that context, the principle of Jainism, of living simply, living frugally and restraint and a simple life are urgently needed at this time in the world.
Yes, I really agree with you. But in 18 years old, you stopped doing as a monk and you came back to a real world. Why?
Because I was 18 years old and I had a dream. And in my dream, Mahatma Gandhi appeared. And in that dream, Mahatma Gandhi said to me that to practice spirituality, you don't have to forsake the world. You don't have to leave the world behind. You have to do something in the world. Everybody has to practice spirituality, not only for the monks. Spirituality is not only for the monks, it's for everybody. And therefore, how many people can become monks? Only few. So we need to bring spirituality in the world. This is what he said in my dream. And so I woke up and I said, and then I read his book as well. And so I thought that what Mahatma Gandhi is saying is correct. We have to practice spirituality in the world. And everything we do, our politics, our economics, our industry, our business, our farming, our arts, our crafts, our music, everything has to be spiritual. Spirituality should be kind of underpinning all our activities. And what is spirituality from the perspective of Mahatma Gandhi and from the perspective of Hinduism and also Buddhism, also Jainism, all religious traditions? Spirituality is to do everything with love. Nothing you do for money. When you do things for money, if you are a farmer and you produce food for money, then it's not spiritual. But if you do it for love, then it's spiritual. If you are in politics, if you are there to serve the humanity, then it is spirituality, spiritual politics. So Mahatma Gandhi was a spiritual politician. So anybody who does everything for the service of humanity, for the well-being of planet, for the well-being of people, for the well-being of society, well-being is a spiritual principle of all religions. Religion names doesn't matter. You can call yourself Christian, Buddhist, Shinto, Tao, Jain, Hindu, Islam, Christian, whatever. Those are only labels, only names. The essential spirituality is to ensure the well-being of the people, yourself. You start the well-being of yourself, then well-being of all other people, and well-being of planet Earth, well-being of animals, well-being of forests, well-being of oceans, well-being at all levels. That is the true meaning of spirituality from the perspective of Mahatma Gandhi. And that inspired me. So I, one night after midnight, left the monkhood. I escaped from the monastery and joined an ashram a community started by a follower of Mahatma Gandhi. And so I lived spiritual life in the world and practicing gardening, practicing farming, practicing education. Anything I do with love. I don't do for money. I don't do for name, fame, prestige, power, control, or awards or recognition. All these things don't matter to me. I do only as a service to humanity for the well-being of people and well-being of planet. So practicing spirituality in everyday life in the world is the principle of Mahatma Gandhi. And that inspired me. And so I left the monastic order, but I did not live spirituality. I only left the robe and I left the name and the monastic system, but I still practice spiritual principles in my life as propagated and pronounced by Mahatma Gandhi.
I see. Oh, Mahatma Gandhi appeared in your dream. That's the change of your life. That's great.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And then you used to be in India and you moved to the UK. Why you moved to UK?
First of all, when I was 26 years old, there was a great British philosopher called Bertrand Russell. He was a peace campaigner. And so he went to jail protesting against nuclear weapons. So I said that he is a man of 90 going to jail for peace in the world. What am I doing, young man, sitting here in India, drinking coffee and so on? And so I was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, by Bertrand Russell. And with the inspiration of that, I decided with a friend to walk from India to Moscow, to Paris, to London, and then to Washington in America, Washington, D.C., to protest against the nuclear weapons. So I walked like a monk without any money in my pocket, completely depending on the generosity of strangers. And I walked through 15 countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, Russia, Moscow, then Belarusia, Poland, Germany, Belgium, France, and Paris. Then I took a boat from Calais to Dover, but then I walked to London and I met Bertrand Russell, and then I took a boat supported by British people to New York. I walked to Washington, and then I came to Tokyo, and I walked from Tokyo to Hiroshima. For 45 days. I walked through Japan, beautiful Japan country, and I met the Japanese people, so humble, so kind, so hospitable, so generous. I was so impressed by Japanese hospitality. I was so impressed by Japanese culture, arts and crafts and music and dance and the nature, the mountains. Japan was so beautiful country. And then I came back to India. So for 2.5 years, I walked around the world, 8,000 miles. 13,000 kilometers, walking without money for 2.5 years. So that was the reason how I got introduced to England. And I had many good friends in England. And then one of the English philosopher and a teacher, an economist called E.F. Schumacher, he had written a book called Small is Beautiful. Yeah. So E.F. Schumacher invited me to become the editor of Resurgence magazine. And so that's how I came to live in England and became the editor of Resurgence magazine. And for 43 years, I edited the magazine. And now I have handed over to some other editors, but the magazine has been going for 55 years, from 1966 to now. And so this magazine promotes spirituality, ecology, well-being. Every year, we hold a festival of well-being, because we are always saying that we have to change from economic growth to growth in well-being. Economic growth does not necessarily bring well-being. We have to focus well-being over economic growth. Economy should be a means to achieve well-being. So Resurgence magazine has been going for 55 years. And during this time, when E.F. Schumacher passed away, I said we should pay tribute. And in honor of E.F. Schumacher, we should start something. And so we started Schumacher College. And so for 30 years now, Schumacher College has been offering courses in ecology, in spirituality, in well-being, and many other things. And all our students learn head, heart, and hands. So Schumacher College has been the great project in honor of E.F. Schumacher, and it has been my contribution to our modern times.
Oh, I see. I understand from your beginning to Schumacher College.
Yes.
Let me ask you more about Schumacher College. Maybe many people knows, but many people don't know about Schumacher College. How many people are studying, living, and what do they do in detail?
Now, the reason we started Schumacher College was that when you go to a school or your university, I don't know, your university might be different, but generally speaking, the University of Tokyo and University of Osaka and Kyoto and Beijing and Delhi and Harvard and Yale and Cambridge and Oxford and big universities around the world. When a student goes to university or a school, teachers look at the student and they think the student has no body, only brain, no body, no hands, no heart, no body, just a brain, and even only half brain. Because neurological science tell you that we have a two half of the brain, one half right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. The left hemisphere is the brain of reason, logic, science, methodology, mathematics, all that rational mind. The right hemisphere is intuitive, imaginative, spiritual. That's a right hemisphere. In our university, they only train the half brain. So you have no body and only half brain. That is our modern education. So I started Schumacher College to say we want to give education for the whole person, head, heart, and hands. So at Schumacher College, we teach ecology, economics, regenerative economics, all those things. But all our students have to participate in the gardening. So they know how to grow food and they all cook food. So they live like a community. And we have courses, short courses. So people can come for 1 week or 2 weeks. Many Japanese people come for 2 weeks or 1 week and they can come. And then some people come for 6 months and they learn about gardening or other things and cooking, gardening and ecology, environment, regenerative culture, biodiversity, agroecology, permaculture, Masanobu Fukuoka's natural farming, and many, many good things we teach. And then we have a 1-year program. And many Japanese students have come. When we started 1-year program, one of the first students was from Japan. And so we had 1-year program in which you can have master's degree in holistic science, educational philosophy, ecological design, regenerative economics, and many, many other things, and also food and farming and all that. So we have a short course, we have a 6 months course, and we have a 1-year course. So we have 3 strands, but all our students have to do head, heart, and hands, whole body, and not just the brain. And when the students leave Schumacher College, we always say that when you go out in the world, don't look for a job, because any job you get will be very polluting, wasting, big industry, big corporations, big business. They are not ecological. So don't look for a job. Create your own job. Create a job which is ecological, sustainable, regenerative, spiritual, no waste, no pollution, and no carbon emission, no climate change. All these principles should be in your work. And so that is a training we give to Schumacher College. So go out and a new education, which is education fit for the 21st century. Our education system you have today in Japan, in China, in India, in Europe, in America, everywhere in the world was designed in the 19th century or the 20th century. That education has become out of date. And now that education is part of the problem. And we have to make new education, which is part of the solution. So Schumacher College is presenting a new model of education, which is fit for the 21st century and not out of date education of the 19th or 20th century. So that is Schumacher College. And Schumacher College is living in a community. You are living not like an individual, separate, but in connection, in relationship with the individual, a community. So the community atmosphere of Schumacher College is as important part as the intellectual learning and learning with gardening and cooking, and also developing your heart, your soul, head, heart, and hands. I have written a book called Soil, Soul, Society. And so we embrace nature, but we also have a spiritual values. And also we have social values. So soil, soul, society. These are the three principles of Schumacher College learning.
I see. As a teacher in modern university, I really agree with you that most of the university system is for getting money and for making human more industrialized. But Schumacher College is opposite. Yeah, humans should remember what we are, what we should do. Yeah, I really agree with you. I see.
Can I ask you the question about Schumacher College?
Yes.
I heard that you can get the like a certification from England. Is that true? When you go to the Schumacher College, you will be certified by the government of England. Is that true?
Yes, yes.
How does it happen? Is that because the modern college very different, right? So what?
Yes.
What?
We are independent college, but we work in collaboration with a university nearby called University of Plymouth. And when our students write their dissertation, that dissertation goes to the University of Plymouth. And the professors at the University of Plymouth give accreditation. So our degrees are accredited and recognized by the British government. And so if you have an MA from Schumacher College, then it is accredited and recognized by the government. And so not only British government, anywhere, even if it is accredited by our university, in Japan, it is perfectly okay. Any country, so our education, 1 year master's program is accredited and recognized by the mainstream society.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful system. Right.
Yeah.
So obviously it's like a bridge between the modern education and your kind of latest cutting edge kind of idea of the new college, the school system.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are there. The right word is the bridge. We are the bridge because we cannot leave society and go away in the mountains and live by ourselves. We have to live in the world and we have to transform the world. How do we transform the world if we are not part of the world? So we don't want to reject the world. We want to transform the world. And therefore, having one foot in the mainstream and one foot out of the mainstream, that is a bridge. So Schumacher College is a bridge between the two. So we want to change our educational system. So I'm working all the time. I'm going to universities and colleges and schools and saying that you have to change your curriculum. You have to change your syllabus and you have to include nature and you have to include your students going out in nature and learning from nature, seeing nature as a teacher, not only in the classroom, but all education taking place in the classroom. Your students should go out in nature and learn from nature and learn to respect nature. Humans and nature are not separate. Humans are also nature. Nature is not only trees and mountains and forests and animals and birds. We are also nature. So if we can see ourselves as nature and learn from nature and be in nature and harmony with nature, this transformation we are trying to bring. And this is why it is important for Schumacher College to be a bridge between the mainstream society and the new future for humanity.
That's fantastic. Great.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Oh,
Yes.
some more.
Is it possible?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring speech, lecture. And I have a question. And you emphasize the importance of love, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine how you can teach love and how you can define what is love. So I think it is almost impossible to teach and evaluate love. So how can you treat this very difficult and very important concept? Please share your opinion.
We believe that you can teach love, because when you are at home, you teach your children by your example. When your parents do everything with love, then children learn to love. In the same way, in the school and university, if your teachers, professors, lecturers are doing everything with love, and they have a love for the children and love for the knowledge and love for the wisdom, then children will learn how our professors and lecturers and teachers are teaching with love, and not just kind of dry intellectual exercise, but they are teaching with love. So when you see that example is the best way to teach. So you can teach that also when you are in communication with your students, you can talk about love and say, when you do something, why are you doing it? Are you doing it with money? Are you doing it for status, power, prestige, control? Or are you doing it for the well-being of yourself, to be happy and to look after other people and to look after nature and be in harmony with nature? You can teach it. We do it. We do it at Schumacher College. We bring love in the conversation, and people learn how to do things with love rather than just for money and just for power and just for show off, just for ego. You can teach it. It's possible. This is why we say education of head, education of heart. Heart is when you can, if you want to communicate with other people, sometimes you have disagreement and you have block. You cannot talk to people because they don't agree with you. So if you cannot communicate through your head, open the heart and communicate with your heart and appeal to the heart of the other person. And that is love. Love is heart. Love is feeling. Love is your compassion and your kindness and your generosity. These values have to be taught in our schools, in our universities, in our colleges, and in our homes. If we don't teach children how to love, what's the point of all this life when you have a house, you have money, you have cars, you have computers, you have everything, but no love? What's the good of that life? So I think you can teach love in your schools and universities. And love is to take care of everybody, yourself, other people, and nature, and look after the well-being of everybody. That is love. And so love is to drop your expectations and accept life as it is and help to make life as good and as beautiful and as joyful as possible. So joy is love, beauty is love, goodness is love, generosity is love. Love permeates through our life. Without love, life is like a well without water, like a soil without water, like a tree without fruit. You have a banana tree, but doesn't grow any fruit on it. Or you have a cherry tree, but no blossom. So a tree without cherry, tree without blossom is like life without love. So love is the essential quality of our life.
Thank you very much. One more question. I completely agree with you, but how can we distinguish true love from false love? Maybe we can pretend often it is love, but in reality it is love driven from egoism. It happens often, I think. So how can you can distinguish true love and false love?
Yes. If you close your eye and think, everybody has to meditate, what is true love? Whatever I'm doing, am I doing for ego, for selfishness, for my name, fame, prestige, power, control, money, status, or am I doing it for love, for the service of humanity, for the well-being of people, for goodness of all living beings? The moment you start to ask that question, the answer comes from your own heart. The answer is not in the books. The answer is not among, I don't give answer to everybody. You have to find your own inner guru. You have your own guru, your teacher inside you. So you have to close your eyes every day and meditate and ask that question. What is true love? The moment you ask that question, you will find the answer within your heart. And the answer is not outside you. Answer is within you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody else?
Kuga-san, ありがとうございました。Thank you, Mr. Kuga, for asking question. If you have any question, please feel free to speak up or write it down in the chat box.
May I?
Question, comment, anything? Yes.
May I?
Yes.
Speaking.
Yes, please.
Mr. Mira, okay.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Satish. Through your stories, I have recognized the importance of learning from nature. In Japan, we should have learned the importance of the learning from the nature through the Buddhism and Shinto, but we easily forget that kind of importance because we are in, especially I'm in the business person in the Tokyo business jungle, and we are working especially for the economic growth. Could you provide advice for us to learning from the nature, even such a business situation? Should I go to the Schumacher College for a short course?
Answer yes. Please come to Schumacher College for short course, and you will find many answers there. But briefly, I can answer your question. If you build a city like Kyoto, Kyoto is a full of nature, surrounded by mountains. A great river is flowing. There are philosophers walk. There are cherry trees. There are beautiful gardens. The temples, the Shinto shrines, these Buddhist temples. They have trees. They have water. They have gardens. Kyoto is a beautiful example of nature and culture coming together. And nature and culture living in harmony with each other. But Tokyo is different. Why Tokyo should not be like Kyoto? Why in Tokyo we don't have many more gardens, and every building you build should have trees, and every house you build should have a garden? So you can bring city and culture and nature together. Nature and culture are not against each other. Nature and culture can live together in harmony. But at the moment, our big cities like Osaka, like Tokyo, like New York, or Beijing, or Shanghai, or Mumbai, all these cities have sent nature into exile, out of the city. Go out. Every roof in the city can be a garden. Why don't we have, on the roof, we can have vegetables and flowers and fruit, and we can have every house. When we design architecture, we should have a land in it, and we should have some tree and some water and some flowers and some fruit in the every house and every office building and every hospital and every school and every university and every office building. Like you have Emperor's Palace. There are lots of trees in Emperor's Palace, and lots of trees even in Tokyo. Old temples have lots of trees. But our modern Ginza has no trees. So why should Ginza should be just concrete jungle? You can create a city where you can bring nature in it and learn from nature and be part of nature. I think that is possible. But our 20th century architects forgot nature. They thought nature should be out of the city. We should only have a concrete jungle, an office and air conditioning and computers and cars and a car park. If you have car parks everywhere, why not tree parks as well? You should have. So many more gardens, many more parks, trees, water in the city. It is possible. We can do it. And we have to redesign our city and maybe reduce our population of Tokyo to maybe 2 or 3 or 5 million people and no more. Then it can be learning from nature is possible. But I think I recommend you to come to Schumacher College for 1 week and you will learn much more.
Thank you very much. We do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mira-san. Any question? 日本語でも結構ですので、とても貴重な機会ですので、ご質問やコメント欄でも結構ですし、はい、声をかけていただいても結構です。いつでもお声掛けください。
質問してもいいですか？ Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Of course.
はい。
ジンさん。はい。
こんにちは。
どうぞ。Yes, go ahead, please.
My name is Kumiko Jin. I'm teaching. I'm teaching geography in high school.
Yes.
And when I teach a high school student, I'm asking what kind of a change would you like to cause, and they are not sure. And in the younger generation in Japan, because Japan is the aging society, and the younger generation is difficult to have hope to change. And they cannot believe they can cause a movement or social change. And I'm wondering what would be the good way to give hope or inspire them. So when they are quite cynical and difficult to have a hope.
Yes, yes. You know, around the world at the moment, there are many, many young boys and girls are becoming aware of the world situation, climate change, global warming, and biodiversity, and the importance of nature in life. And so like Greta Thunberg in Sweden, and many, many hundreds of thousands of people in India, in Europe, in America, in all parts of the world are waking up. And I think there are some young people in Japan as well. But what we need to do in your lessons when you teach geography, do you teach geography?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, when you teach geography, geography is not only maps. The real geography is out in nature. So if you should take your students out in nature and give them the experience of nature, the beauty of nature, the serenity of nature, the wisdom of nature, the generosity of nature. When you plant one apple tree with one seed, your children should need to know that that one seed will become a whole tree and will give thousands of apples every year for 50 years. That's the magic of nature. Children need to learn that. Children need to plant a tree. Children need to plant a tomato seed and see how that one tomato seed can become a tree, a plant. And that plant can have 50 tomatoes, and each tomato will have 50 more seeds. That's the magic of nature. But we are holding our classes inside the classroom, confined, and our children don't have the real experience of nature. So what you need to do, every school, not only your class, but every school should say at least one day a week, children will learn not inside the classroom, but outside the classroom. And the nature will be your classroom. And you will sit under the tree You know, the Buddha, Japan is one of the great religion of Japan, is Buddhism. The Buddha was enlightened while sitting under a tree, Bodhi tree. He did not go to classroom. He did not go to a school to learn enlightenment or love. He was sitting under a tree. And so unless you have children sitting under a tree and being out in nature, they will not learn true geography and true economy or true philosophy or true science. Everything. If you take Darwin, how did he learn about evolution? By being out in nature. And he experimented with earthworms. And how did Newton learn about gravity? By looking at the apple tree and how apple tree falls. This is how the great Buddha, Darwin, Newton, all the great scientists and religious teachers have found enlightenment and knowledge by observing nature out in nature. So you take your students out in nature. That is the way to do it. And of course, Japan is an aging society, and that is now all over the world. Even in India is becoming an aging society. Don't worry. There are ways where older people can be very helpful. I'm 85 years old, but I can still teach, I can still garden, I can still grow food, I can still cook. Old age is not an impediment for good living and good life. Old age does not mean that you have no energy. I'm 85 years old, I'm an activist. So don't worry about old people, respect them and love them and let them be active. Don't put them in an old age home and say, no, you are no good. Only young people should be working. Young and old should learn together. Old people can teach young people. They can tell stories, they can tell history. They can take children out for walking and tell about nature. My mother was old, but she used to take me out in nature, walking. So don't worry about the old society and old people. That is a great gift that Japan has, that you have so many nice old people. They are active, they can remain active, and they can teach, and they can speak, and they can tell stories, and they can look after young children. And so think about that we are blessed to have older people. I'm old, so I can speak for the old. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So you are very young.
Thank you. Yes, there's a question there.
Yes, there's a lady raising hand. Yoneda Junko-san.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
Hello, Satish.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I live in Kanazawa City.
Yeah.
Ishikawa,
Yes.
Japan.
Yeah.
I have 5 children. 日本語でもいいですか？
はい、どうぞ。
はい、どうぞ。はい。
今日さ、お話聞けてすごく嬉しかったです。お顔も見れて。
I'm so grateful to see you and listen to your stories. どうぞ。
近藤ひとみさんからお話を聞いて今日参加しました。
Satish, do you know Hitomi Kondo?
Hitomi Kondo?
Yes. Anyway, somebody introduced about this event to her. Yoneda-san. Yes. はい、どうぞ。
Okay.
ありがとうございます。質問じゃないんだけど、嬉しすぎてちょっと発言したかっただけです。
はい。じゃあそれを一言お願いできますか？
はい。
何が嬉しかったか。はい。
近藤ひとみさんって人が日本全国を回ってくれてて、サティスさんの存在を知りまして、今日お話を聞かせてもらって、で、石川県の金沢市でも、サティスさんが種をまいてくれたピースウォーク、金沢で20年続けています。私、去年から関わり始めて、すごくこの種をもっと広げていきたいなって思ってます。 だから今日お会いできてありがとうございます。
Thank you. Okay, the Miss Kondo, who referred about this event to this lady, Miss Yoneda-san, who just spoke to us. This Miss Kondo has been leading a peace walk for 20 years in Kanagawa Prefecture in Japan, and Yoneda-san loves this activity. So she was so thrilled to see you directly with you and speaking with you. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
I'm delighted to hear about this lady. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah. Next question.
Okay, next question. 大竹さん、大竹さんですか？質問いただいてますが、英語でおしゃべりされますか？
ごめんなさい、できません。
日本語で。はい、じゃあ、直接。はい。
私、サティシさんに2017年にシューマッハカレッジでお会いしました。ヘレナさんとサティシさんにお会いしたことがあります。
Okay, the next lady, Otake-san, she visited Schumacher College in 2017. She met you and Helena.
Okay.
それで、ぜひサティシさんに聞きたいのは、日本の若い世代が政治に関心とか主権者教育っていうところになかなかつながっていかないっていうところで、私は50代として責任を感じています。今から50代として私が何ができるかってことでいつも悩み続けています。生きるヒントをください。
Okay, I have your advice. In Japan, so many people, especially young people, are not interested in politics. And as a person, I'm on my 50s. I feel so responsible about this young generation. Can you please give me any advice? What I can do to make this young generation to more into the politics, interested in the world?
For the children, for young people. You know, young people, they already know quite a lot. So first of all, we must not think that, like I said about the older people, we must not think that young people, children age 12, 13, 15, they have tremendous intelligence. They have a tremendous intuition. They have a tremendous energy. And we must listen to our young people. We must not think they are undeveloped adults. Children have a tremendous energy and intelligence and wisdom. So first thing is to listen to children rather than look down on children. Listen to children. That's the first. Lots of us adults think our children don't know. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. We're all the time telling them, oh, this is not good. We should allow children to make mistakes. We only learn by making mistakes. We adults make a lot of mistakes. Majority of the big mistakes are made by adults, not by children. And therefore, let children make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. And when they learn from their mistakes, and then let children ask questions. And when they ask questions, then you can answer. You can give your wisdom. But even your answer is not the complete answer. We have to practice humility towards children and say, my answer is only one answer, but there may be many other answers. And then you have to discover those answers by yourself. So these are the things I advise. Respect the children, listen to children, let children make mistakes, and they will learn from their mistakes. And when they let them ask questions, and when they ask questions, you give your answer. But even then, don't think this is the complete answer, the final answer. There are many more answers, and children have to discover those answers by themselves. Trust them. Trust the children. If you trust the children, children will grow more wholesome and more confident and more courageous and more bold and brave. If you always put them down, their courage will be suppressed, and their enthusiasm will be suppressed, and their energy will be suppressed. So let them make mistakes and let them grow in their own energy. That's all advice I can give you.
はい、要約だけ日本語で。はい、子どもたちは素晴らしい、知識を持っている、何でも知っていると。ですから、まず最初に子どものことを軽く見ないでください。そして、まず耳を傾けて聞いてあげてください。そして、質問してあげてください。で、それに、ご自身の答えは差し上げるけれども、それが完璧な質問ではない。他にたくさんの答えを自分で見つけなさい。というふうに、導いてあげてください。そんなような趣旨でした。ありがとうございます。
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. で、次の質問に行きます。OA さん、OA さん、三重県の方、声出せますか？ OA さん、三重県からご参加の方。じゃあ、すいませんね。ちょっと時間の関係で次に行かせていただきます。玉城さん、サティッシュに聞きたいことがあるという、沖縄の玉城淳さんですね。いらっしゃいますか？
はい。
はい。
こんばんは。
はい、こんばんは。お願いいたします。
はい。一つ、サティッシュの映画を見て感動して、再来月、石見銀山に行くことになりました。ありがとうございますっていうことと質問です。はい。サティッシュが今、好きなこと、大切にしていることを一つお聞きしたいです。
Okay, Mr. Tamashiro, he was impressed by your movie. So thank you very much for the opportunity today. And he decided to go to Iwami Ginzan because of your movie. And one question, what is your most favorite thing right now? Anything you like or anything you care the most right now?
I love walking in nature. Because when you are walking, your mind is still and connected with nature. So every day I go out walking. I walk by the sea, I walk under the trees, I walk among the flowers, I walk along the river, I also walk with my wife, I walk with my children, I walk with my friends, I walk alone in solitude, I walk in every way and every day. So my most favorite thing is walking. And however busy you are, whatever emails you have to do, whatever job you have to do not miss walking. Walking is the medicine for the mind. Walking is medicine for the soul. Walking is medicine for the body. Walking is when you learn about nature. You see the clouds, you see the sunset, you see the sunrise, you see the stars, you experience the wind, you experience the storm, you experience so much by walking. And when you are walking in nature, nature is a real book of nature. What you can learn by reading a book in your even great poetry like Basho. Basho's poetry comes from nature, but he was walking. Journey to the deep north, he was walking. And so my favorite thing is walking every day. And I advise everyone, if you are living in Tokyo or Osaka or big cities, wherever you are, doesn't matter. Go out every day for 1 hour in nature, walk and look at the trees, look at the flowers. I mean, you have a cherry blossom walking, but cherry blossom should not be only for 1 month in April. There should be, nature is full of beauty and full of magic and full of amazement every day. So don't reserve your walking only to a cherry blossom. Every day walk. And that's my favorite thing.
ありがとうございます。歩いていて今日の学びというか、なんか今日学んだことみたいなのがあったら一つ聞きたいなと思います。
One more question. Today, what did you learn by walking today?
I learned that now we are in winter, starting winter, and the wind. And I learned that it is good to have winter. And when we have a winter, we should welcome winter. And we should say, this is the time of darkness, short days, long nights. Dark is as good as light. So treat light and darkness with equanimity. So I learned the lesson of equanimity, treating dark and light equally. In the same way, I learned that as we treat dark and light equally, we treat pleasure and pain easily, equally. Equanimity with pleasure and pain, equanimity with loss and gain, equanimity with sickness and health, equanimity I learned today. From nature, I learned that everything, nature treats everything with equanimity. Equanimity is the great principle of nature. If we can learn from nature one thing, which I learned today, equanimity, I'll be happy. My happiness comes by treating gain, loss, pain, pleasure, good, bad, dark, light, sweet, bitter, everything with equanimity. Everything has a place in life, and we have to celebrate life as it comes. That's what I learned.
Thank you.
ありがとうございます。Thank you.
自然は本のようだとおっしゃってましたね。そして今日は冬で日が短くなって、で闇というのは光と等しくいいこと、何か全ては同じ対等なんだということをおっしゃってましたね。はい、ではちょっと手を挙げていただいている方で、先ほどから挙げていただいたソーインさん、お願いします。He speaks English, so the next person raising hand, Mr. Soin, please.
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here and share your opinions and speeches. I'm Soin Fujio, a Zen monk of Kenchoji School of Rinzai denomination. And I was so impressed with the Schumacher's Small is Beautiful. There's a Mahatma Gandhi is here picture. This book was published. I read in my university days 40 years ago.
Okay.
And
okay.
I was so impressed by Schumacher. And
yeah, okay.
I read more hundreds times this book. I memorized all of the contents. Well, by the way, I was so impressed by this book in 1970s. However, more than half a century later now, I'm afraid the world is heading in the opposite direction. The superpower nations, which have strong political and military influence, the market monopoly of huge companies or giant corporations like GAFA, Google, Amazon, Facebook, or Apple, so on. It seems to be the aspect of a giant is beautiful or a super big is beautiful instead of small is beautiful. So in such a global situation, could you give us a message to a small country like Japan or small companies and the people who work there? The background of my question is that I have been working on the suicide issues in Japan for a long time, working on the suffering people, especially for suicide victims and bereaved families, suicide survivors and their families, mentally handicapped persons and their families. Then I have several groups to teach them, suffering people, suicide victims or the suicide intention people and their families and mentally disordered persons. So I'd like to transfer your message to each group's strong, powerful message. I'd like to get if possible.
Yes. Thank you for your question. And first of all, congratulations on your work that you are helping so many people in your work. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing you can do. Now, as you say, Schumacher wrote his book in 1973, in the 70s, and the world is going in the opposite direction. But now world is realizing that by going in opposite direction, we are bringing catastrophe in the world. Climate change, COP26 in Glasgow. Many leaders from the world, around the world, came to Glasgow and said that what we have done to the world is not good. And so we have to change. So although the world has gone opposite direction, now we are realizing that that direction has not been good for the world and not good for humanity. It has not brought happiness and joy and well-being to people. So I think that we have to keep hope in our heart. Don't give up your hope. Things change. even this big catastrophic climate change and catastrophic global corporations and global business and global economy has brought devastation to nature. But this can change, and this has to change. In the long history of humanity and the long history of geological time, this cannot be good for the world. And therefore, the message of Mahatma Gandhi, the message of E.F. Schumacher, the message of many other great teachers, their time is coming. Their time has not gone. The time is coming. And therefore, keep your resolve, keep your hope on. Because by becoming hopeless and pessimistic, you cannot do anything. To be an activist, you have to be an optimist. You have to have a hope. Without being optimist, if you become pessimist, you'd give up activism. And therefore, I would say, even though situations are dark, change can happen. You can see British Empire came to an end. British Empire was so big, India, Africa, many countries were under British Empire and the other imperial empires. In the same way, the Soviet Union came to an end. In South Africa, apartheid came to an end. The Berlin Wall came to an end. The oppression and suppression of women was very strong, and now it's much less, and women have much better place. The oppression of black people and the slavery was very bad, and now is much better for situation for the black people around the world. It's improving. And so we have to see also the positive side of change. And humanity, we had First World War, Japan went to war. Second World War, Japan went to war. Japan went to China, war, many wars. Now Japan is more peaceful. And in Japan, you have a law where you do not be aggressive and do not build big army and no nuclear weapons. So I think in the last 60, 70 years, we have more peace than we had previously. So when you are looking at the world going in opposite direction, Google, Apple, Facebook, all these big companies exploiting, yes, they are going in the opposite direction. But at the same time, human consciousness is also rising, and the evolution of human consciousness is happening. Therefore, do not give up hope. Remain optimistic. Remain optimist and activist, and keep doing your work. Until the last breath of life, I will keep doing my good work. Then results are not in my hands. Results are in the hands of the universe. That's why I bow to the universe. I pay my homage to the universe. I do my best, and then leave the results in the hands of the universe. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. I hope the students of the Professor Maeno or your Satish-san or other teachers like Jin-san or some others, one day such students to become a spiritual politician, as you mentioned, Mahatma Gandhi, or the spiritual CEO or whatever professor. So
that's what we are trying to do at Schumacher College. We are training young people so that they can be spiritual CEOs and spiritual managers and humble leaders rather than arrogant. And as Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, and many other great, Masanobu Fukuoka, many great people are upholding the high values in society, and we must work with them. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you so much. There are so many questions, but probably Jun Ishikawa-san, you've been raising your hand, so can you speak up? I think you speak in English, right?
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for your opinions and your advice on us. Could you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. I've been working on the, I've been working on the, IT company for a long time, and I realized that maybe what I'm doing is not so valuable to my son or our children. So that's why I'm trying to find how I can transform myself or my life into the more like a nature friendly, or the maybe friendly like a life, like what you said, learn from the nature. But sometimes when I trying to transform my life or transform my family life, I felt that we become unhappy about how we the form of the life, or what we eat, what we actually what we consume as well. So these days I've been thinking that maybe something core is missing of my transformation of the life into somewhere that more like harmony with life. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I'm sure that you don't know about me, but I feel like you have many people that you face that feel that something missing when they transform their lifestyle or life. What is the general advice on those people who like to transfer, but they are afraid of becoming unhappy because they're trying to be more harmonious to the life?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's a good question. When you transform your life, sometimes you have to go step by step. So if you are working in an IT company, from big company, you are working 5 days a week, 10 hours a day, that's too much. So what you can do is you negotiate with your company and say, can I work 3 days a week or 4 days a week so that I don't work so much, and reduce your hours from 10 hours to maybe 7 hours or 6 hours. And then 1 day or 2 days a week, you learn something which is not so high tech, but something more beautiful, something more artistic, like pottery, like gardening, like some other arts and crafts, very beautiful Japanese crafts tradition. Learn something different, which is more satisfying, more artistic, more imaginative, more creative, more joyful. And then when you start to learn that skill better, then you can reduce your technical work even further. And then maybe you can do some freelance work, some advice. 1 day or 2 days a week, you give some freelance advice to business to earn some money. But in the meantime, you are doing something which is joyful and bringing family together, and also your children, your wife, any people in your family, they can also learn some new skills, new arts, crafts, gardening, cooking, all those things, and also reduce the consumption. Always reduce how I can live with fewer things. If you buy something, don't buy something which you have to replace next year, but buy something which will last for 10 years, 20 years, long lasting. So you don't have to spend so much money on buying new things every year. So reduce your consumption, reduce your expenditure, reduce your hours of work in high-tech companies, increase the skills of arts, crafts, music, poetry, gardening, cooking, family life, increase the time, and that transition will help you to be happy. If you suddenly change from working in high-tech to no money, no this and that, then you will be feeling uncomfortable and happy because you have got a habit of living a comfortable life. So without that life, you will feel unhappy. So do a transition, gentle transition, but be mindful of the transition, be aware of the transition, and do it with great joy and positivity rather than negativity. That's all you can do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. コメント欄、日本語でありがとうございます。There are several questions in Japanese, but because of the time, I'll probably combine some of the questions, okay?
Okay.
はい、いくつか時間も迫ってきたので、合体させてこちらでいただきます。吉田真理子さんと河合和彦さんの質問、ちょっと一つにさせていただいて質問したいと思います。There are questions like, you mentioned about not for waste, not for the, not yourself waste for the fame or money, whatever. but how can you find the good job, not for the fame, not for the money, and also how can we create a world based on the love, not for making money for love, but for love?
Yes. Don't look for a job. Learn some skills to create a job. Start a bookshop. Start a publishing house. Start a good whole food restaurant. Start a shop where you sell organic food or organic clothes or organically handmade shoes. You start a shop. You start a restaurant. You start a business, which is joyful, which is creative, which has nature in it. So don't think that I can find a job, somebody else will give me a job. You are CEO of your life. Be the CEO of your own life. Be the CEO of your own job. Don't look for somebody else's job. Because when you work for somebody else, big corporation, big business, big industry, you will be a cog in the machine. You have to follow the orders of your boss. And so I think we have to create new, small, sustainable, regenerative businesses. Small scale. Small is beautiful. So small scale, small shop, small restaurant, small bookshop, small publishing house, small magazine, writing poetry, writing new books and earning money for writing, learning to sing music, earning some money through music. Find something which will inspire you. Your own, be the CEO of your own life and your own business, and don't look for a job for somebody else. And if you don't know, learn the skills, learn to be, you have capacity to be a poet, to be an artist, to be a dancer, to be a cook, to be a gardener, to be a restaurant keeper. You can be an architect. You can build beautiful houses. You have a capacity. Do not undervalue. Do not underestimate. Do not underrate your capacity and your potential. Go back to yourself. You are a Buddha. You are a Basho. You are a Mahatma Gandhi. You are a great being. You are Hakusai. You can be what you want to be. Have a courage. Have boldness. Do not think, oh, how can I find a job? How can I? That's timid. I want you to be bold. I want to be courageous. I want you to take risk. To live is to risk. Take some risk in your life and go for something adventure. And don't be coward. Be courageous.
Okay, and you're saying by doing that, that's a practice of love, do you think?
Yes, practical.
Say again. Is it a practice of love? Because another question was how to create a world based on love. So
yes. That is a practice of love. Love is not for the faint heart. You do something what you love. That's why you have to create it. You have to, if you love what you are doing, you will do it very beautifully. If you do something without love, it will just a mechanical doing something. When I'm speaking to you now, I'm speaking with love. Love is in my heart. This is why I'm speaking to you. I'm not speaking for anything else. I have no other desire. I have no other expectation. I'm speaking to you with love. So do anything you do with love, but do something which is inspiring, which is imaginative, which is creative, which will make you happy, make you joyful, adventurous. Take some love is a way of the brave. Love is a way of the brave, the courageous. Love requires courage. Love is not somebody who can do love with timidity or to something faint heart. Love requires courage.
ありがとうございます。河合さんと吉田さん、まず自分が人生の CEO になってください。それが仕事を自分で生み出すということと、愛については、愛すべきもと、ジョイフル、楽しめることをやってください。そんなようなことでした。はい、お時間がだいぶなんですけれども、Satish, can you stay a little bit longer than we planned? I wonder, like 5 to 10 minutes?
I'm afraid I have something else
You
planned,
have to
so I
go.
can't
Okay.
stay longer. But we can do another session, maybe next month or some other time. We can do another session. But
great.
today I can't stay longer than 11:30.
Okay.
Okay, let me plan another time.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah,
event.
but lastly, there is a very important question. Can you say something for the young generation for this country, Japan, because there are so many problems, issues, especially for the kids. Of course, adults too. Anything encouraging?
No, I would like to say to young people that the older generation did something bad without knowing sometimes in their ignorance. So now you have opportunity because you have much more knowledge than we did in our time. Many people who exploited nature did not know what they were doing. They did their ignorance. Now we know better. So young people can build a new society. Young people can build a new future. And young people should learn many skills, not just intellectual skills, but more physical, more practical, more imaginative, and more spiritual skills. So young people can create a new future. And I'm very hopeful, but I can see that many, many young people around the world are waking up and becoming very active. And even in Glasgow at COP26, there were 10,000 young people marching, demanding government leaders to do something. Like Greta Thunberg is a young person, and she's saying, don't just say blah, 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 but do something. Words are not enough. You have to act. And that kind of thing young people are doing. So become active, become engaged, be part of the movement. Don't just think that I have to just pass exams and get a degree and that's it. That's not enough. You have to become active in social, ecological, environmental movement, spiritual movement. And that way you will feel happy. You will feel joyful because you are engaged in transforming the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now I think we have to bring a close to this session.
Yeah, you have to. So Maeno Sensei, please say the last word for Kumo. Satish?
I think we have said enough. And it's a great pleasure to be part of this this session and this conversation. And thank you all for coming and being part of it. And so many people from Japan taking so much interest. Please buy my book, Elegant Simplicity, and there are other books. And please come to Schumacher College and we can do some work there. And you are very welcome. And we'll do another session maybe in January.
Thank you so much. So everyone, 皆さんちょっとsay goodbye to Satish にちょっと手でも振っていただければ嬉しいです。
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I will run
Thank
another
you.
session.
Thank you
very
much.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.